Hey everyone, Sophie here. Quick announcement before we get into today's episode. If you have found value in any of our content, whether that be the podcast or our community Zooms or our newsletter, social media content, you can now support us by donating at livelifeumpotted.com/donate. Daisy and I are passionate about growing and building Life Unpotted so that we can impact as many people as we can to help people wake up, connect with themselves, grow, evolve, heal. And your support will help us do all of that. It will help us create more offerings like online workshops, in-person events, books that are on the horizon for 2024, which I am so excited about. And honestly, your support is the fuel that will help us keep moving forward, to continue to create a space where people can grow and heal and connect with one another. So if you feel called to support and you would like to contribute to the growth of Life Unpotted, we would really appreciate any support that you can offer. Thank you all so much. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for being part of the community. I am so excited for 2024 and I'm so excited to have you along the ride. Hey everyone, welcome back to Life Unpotted. If you celebrated Christmas yesterday, Merry Christmas. The holidays are here. It's the week between Christmas and New Year's, which I know for me is a time of reflection. It's a time to slow down, really reflect on the end of the year. And for me, I am feeling super, super excited. And I want to tell you why. So as everyone knows, if you have listened to Life Unpotted for a while, but if you have not, if you're a new listener, Daisy and I left our jobs earlier this year to pursue our passions, to move to a new city, and to find out what was possible. We've been in Austin now for I think around 5 or so months, and life has unfolded in so many different ways. It has been hard, it has been confusing, but above all, as we come to the close of the year, I'm able to see, wow, I've grown so much. And as of last week, I officially have 2 coaching clients. I'm coaching people to help them in all different ways, connect with themselves, pursue their passions, cultivate self-love, so cultivate a sense of connection. And last week I hosted a workshop where, you start to see things are growing. And a really big realization for me is, wow, I made money on my own. I did it. I did it this year. That was a goal I had, and I really pushed myself to do it. And I really pushed myself to do that, and it happened. It almost is hard to believe. And even, it's like, oh, I've made like $500 on my own or whatever. That's a lot of money. And it's just freaking exciting, not because of the money, but just to show that we have so much potential. We have so much potential to create the life that we want. And look, just the other night, I was getting anxious about money, feeling like I'm living on savings. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I paused and remembered, wow, that's just a fear. That's just a fear of uncertainty. That's just a fear of not knowing. And when we're going down the path of changing our lives, we make the decision that we're going to get comfortable with not knowing. We're going to get comfortable with uncertainty. And that's hard. It's scary. But the biggest rewards in life come when we dive off the jumping board and we jump into the ocean and we say, I have no idea where I'm going to go, but I know how to swim. So what's the worst that can really happen? I think sometimes we forget that we know how to swim. I think sometimes we forget that, for me, I'm 30 years old. I've been on this earth for 30 damn years. What do I really have to worry about? I got through high school. I got through college. I got through law school. I got through all of this stuff. And each and every time I thought I couldn't do it. And when you start to look back and reflect, you go, oh, right, like I can do a lot more than I think. I am so capable. You, the listener, are so capable. And I think that's just kind of how I wanted to start off this episode, for whoever's listening in between the holidays, to really give you a chance to reflect and to remember that it's possible. And we're over here proving that to you. We're showing you it, and we're not going to stop. So thanks for being a part of the journey, and I'm excited for this conversation.
That was a great intro. I have to agree. I mean, just doing a little bit of a reflection, and as this right now is a time for reflection as the year is coming to an end, and I reflect on the last year, and this is without a question been the most impactful year of my entire life because of actions and steps that I have taken that no one told me to take other than myself. And I'm really excited for this upcoming week to just kind of set into the next year. And I feel like I've always had that mentality, but it's always been very difficult for me to do that because I was always in college with a major I didn't really care about, or I was always at a job that I didn't really care about. So it was really hard for me. And I was really consumed by those things also. I couldn't look beyond those things. I didn't know how to really see goals for myself as personal development in a healthy way that was true growth. It wasn't just intensity and you need to achieve this and you need to achieve this. It's like, this is really the first year where I really feel just so much joy and gratitude for how this last year has unfolded and how I feel it has set up this next year for so many things to happen. And this year has been really difficult. And there is benefit with difficult things. As I say, I'm like, well, I got through this year. I started using psychedelics for the first time, which that was not easy. I started putting myself into discomfort in social situations, which that is not easy. I quit my job, one of the hardest things. I started a podcast, really hard for me, really terrified to let myself just talk and get out of my own way. That was freaking hard. And I guess we started that in 2022, but we really rebranded it and allowed it to reflect ourselves this year. We really allowed ourselves to stop censoring ourselves for the purpose of wanting to hold on to some level of certainty, even if that was in the form of limited beliefs. We moved to a new city. We built an apartment together. And the last 4 months of this year have been excruciatingly scary, living on savings, nannying for the first time after leaving corporate world, and finding ways to just keep pushing through and realizing that what is upsetting me, what is fearful, is never actually what I think it is. There's always something deeper beneath that. And this thing of money, of like, we are really putting ourselves out there right now and putting ourselves into the abyss and learning as we go with not a consistent paycheck guaranteed. And that is extremely uncomfortable But it's forced me to face these fears about these things that have nothing to do with what I think it is, and allowing myself to empower myself to work through it and to be resilient and to find way back up afloat, waking up with extreme anxiety and then taking 5 minutes and separating yourself from those thoughts. And that's an invaluable skill that I really feel has been picked up for me this year. So that's my brief reflection on this year. I could reflect a ton. I mean, there is just so much that has happened this year. And I say this as a point of, I mean, this is a podcast that if you've been here for a while, you've watched it all happen. But I also say it as a point of, it's been hard for me to reflect in the past on things that felt valuable to me, and just being a place to watch someone reflect on their life and say that if you aren't happy with where you're at now, that you can change that, or that you can make this the year of difficult changes, the difficult choices. And 1 year from now, you can be in a space where you're like, damn, that was a year. Whatever that means, to start facing things that you've always wanted to face. Start incorporating more hours into your day because you want to create more things. Like, there's always space to change. And it always starts with this moment. But change doesn't happen externally in this moment. It's all internally. And you don't have to wait until you get somewhere externally to feel the results. You can feel those results now from saying, I'm facing this. And I think that's a really exciting point, and that's what brings sustainable change into your life.
Yeah, it's a beautiful journey. And I think, look, to anybody who's listening, I just want to let you know, like, a year ago at this point, I was at my law firm. I was not miserable because I kind of learned how to be at a job I didn't like and enjoy it. But I was probably working late. It was a holiday time and I had to work, and just feeling frustrated and feeling so awful because it was I couldn't see it. I couldn't see this next path. I couldn't see how I was going to leave my job and how it was going to work out. And I knew at this point we were living in an apartment in New York, and I knew we weren't going to move for another 6 or 7 or 8 months. And I think one of the hardest things that we go through when we set goals and we're changing our life is that period of time where we have to stay in the job maybe we don't want to be at, or we have to stay in the situation we don't want to be at. And I'm here to let anybody who's listening know that you will get through it. And not only will you get through it, but you're going to learn a shit ton from it. And then from there, you're going to keep growing. Nothing is forever. And I worked as a lawyer for 5 years. That was 5 years where I was doing something I knew I didn't really want to do, honestly. And it takes time to get to that point. And I am so grateful I had that experience. I am so grateful I went to law school. I'm so grateful I worked at those jobs I didn't maybe not want to work at, because it's informed this next journey. It's informed where I'm at now. And that is true for every single life experience that you have. Everything you're doing, no matter where you're at right now, is informing your life. You are learning, and is giving you the skill sets, whether we're talking on a practical level of, you're learning how to do something at work that's going to apply to the next thing you do, or on an introspective level, you're learning how to handle hard shit. You're learning the skill of pushing through difficult times, because no matter what you do next, no matter what your goals are, life is hard. We have to learn how to handle difficult emotions and pain, and leaving your career is not going to fix that. Like Daisy said, this year has been fucking hard as shit because we've ripped away every single ounce of comfort. So all of that to say that reflecting on the past year and seeing how far I came and how much I've grown, it's not easy to say this past year was even fun or easy. Like, I've cried more this year than I ever have in my life. Honestly, it was painful. It was difficult. I moved away from my family. That was extremely hard, especially like with certain things going on in my family dynamics and certain things happening. I left the city I lived in 8 years. That was hard as hell, still is. But I'm following my heart, and I'm following that voice that started out really small, and sometimes it still feels small, of saying there's more to life. There's more to life than my current experience. So I just want to be that mirror to whoever's listening to this, to let them know that I'm not any different than you. I am a human being, just like you. I have a heart that's beating. I have eyes where I can see. I have lungs. I have ears. I get sick. I go to therapy. I eat food. I work out. Like, all the same shit everyone does, right? Like, when we let go of division, we're able to see that change is possible for whoever you are. And of course, we all have certain circumstances, but one thing we all have is our mind and our ability to use the extraordinary power that is gifted to us in this human body of resilience, to say that I have the capacity to change my life. And no matter how hard that is, I'm going to do it.
I like how you said, Soph, like, a year ago, you were at your job, that you were doing the hard thing. And if this has nothing to do with your career, then that's fine. If you are in a hard place where you're like, I can name 5 things in my life right now that I don't like, then great. It's time for you to ask the hard questions. It's time for you to give real answers to those hard questions. Because in a time of asking those hard questions and giving those hard answers, it's not fun. It's uncomfortable, but it's a beginning of actually showing up. And the best time to show up with those hard questions and hard reflections of yourself in the mirror, with no candy dusting, no candy coating, is that you have to actually look around and see where you are with your life. And if you don't like it, you can answer yourself honestly and say, I don't like this. And once you honestly answer that, then becomes a chain of action. And while that action is deeply uncomfortable, it's deeply cathartic. And the way you said with the move, I mean, we're 5 months in, and I was never homesick until now. Like, I have been so homesick. I have been just craving the comfort and reminiscing on things that the reality is, if I knew that I had them and I never had this experience, that I would still feel suffocated and unhappy. So while I can understand what I'm doing right now, day in, day out, feels so difficult. It's uncomfortable to move. It's uncomfortable to be in a place where you realize you have so many friends in the place you just left and maybe one friend here. It's hard. And it takes time to process and realize that. But I'm recognizing this is just the beginning to this new journey that I'm carving out, because it's what I deeply know that I want. And it's so hard. I'm continuing to ask myself those hard questions and answer myself honestly. And the realization is, the reason I moved here is because it was harder to ask those questions in a place that was so comfortable. And I did it to get me here. But when you start asking yourself the hard questions on an island that is in the middle of nowhere, you don't have an option to shy away from the hard questions and to turn off the light so you can't see your reflection in the mirror. You have no choice but to keep going. And the times of your brain saying, well, but this, but that, but you were so happy, but it was so easy, you're able to realize that that doesn't have as much weight, because you start to understand that the desire to follow your heart, whatever that means to you, outweighs any level of comfort, because you realize that this discomfort is at its highest right now, that it's temporary, but it's all in the pursuit of you finding a life that is so much more aligned than the one that you were living before you made these sacrifices, before you started asking the hard questions. And I really do think asking the hard questions is a way of life, because you never stop asking those hard questions. But there are things that will come that won't make them so hard. At least the questions that you were once afraid of, you will now say, oh, this is okay. But there's going to be more hard questions in the future, and that never stops. But I am grateful that I asked myself the hard questions, because I think if I never did, I would be living a life to me that was comfortable, but I wasn't happy. And I'm proud of myself for that. And I'm proud of us for taking that leap and for not asking permission and just doing it. And the consequences that come with that are scary on a daily basis, of comparing, of, oh, am I doing it wrong? Am I doing it wrong? But I think the ability to stick out something that is uncomfortable, it rewires your brain to be more resilient to face these things that once used to terrify you. And it makes life a lot more exciting and a lot more fun, because you're not living life in fear. And the moments you live life in fear get smaller and smaller and smaller, and you can laugh at it. You can be like, I know this is not going to last forever. It's separating the experience from the mind's experience. And that has been such a theme of the journey of this year, of understanding that we are literally just on a spinning rock with infinite galaxies around us. We don't know what other experiences they are. And every experience we're having here is just energy, and that we don't have to take it seriously. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't at times feel serious. It means that we're rising to the challenge in a way that is such a full body sensation, that it's not that we're rising to the occasion with one foot in the door and one foot out, meaning that we're partially showing up. It means that we are fully invested, because this is something that we are fully saying, I'm going to live my life this way. And it's really easy to think I'm crazy for doing this, or something's wrong, or this is never going to work out. But I think it's being able to silence those thoughts and just keep putting one foot in front of the other and keep working on asking those hard questions and supplying the answers.
Yeah, beautifully said. I think one of the hardest things we can do in life is ask the hard questions, because we're asking ourselves questions that maybe we don't want to face the answer. And for me, that was starting with my sexuality. Like, I didn't want to confront that fact, because it meant my life would shift drastically. It meant the future I envisioned would not be the future I was living. So too with leaving my career as a lawyer. I didn't want to face that. I didn't want to face that it wasn't lighting me up, that I had other interests and other passions, and maybe the reasons I went down that path were not my own. I didn't want to face the fact that I didn't want to live in the town and city I grew up in the state I grew up in, and move away from my family and being the only person in my family to move away. I didn't want any of that. And when it came to time to ask the questions and realize that the answers to those questions were not comfortable, they were not familiar, it was very uncomfortable. And I think that is a huge recognition to have for anyone who's looking to go through change or wants to go through change, which I think is every single one of us, honestly. It's recognizing that when you ask yourself the question of, is this thing really lighting me up? Do I really want to be in this relationship? Do I really want to live here? Do I really want to be in this job? Am I dating the right person? Am I like whatever it might be, right? Don't run away just because the answer isn't one that you want. Don't run away just because the answer means your life has to drastically change. We get so scared and fear drives us, and all you're experiencing in that moment is that metamorphosis period of going from the butterfly to the caterpillar, of facing that what you're doing right now is not what you want to do. And sometimes that requires, for me, open up the whole healing journey of confronting my entire life, right? My entire life I had to face, from middle school getting bullied to feeling like I never trusted myself, or feeling insecure, or feeling like nobody likes me, or feeling like every single thing, right? But that was controlling me either way. But it's just recognizing that the life you're in right now might feel comfortable. It might feel safe. It might feel secure. And my life did. But are you happy? Are you really, really happy? If you think about being 90 years old and looking back on life, is this really what you would want to do? And look, maybe it is. Maybe you're like us, where we're pursuing that, and that just gives you the motivation to keep going. Maybe, and for me, that is a reminder every single day of keep going, keep moving forward. But for anybody who is at that juxtaposition of either I stay here or I rip off the Band-Aid and go forward, you already know what it's like to be in this place. You already know what it's like to be in this situation of life. This is familiar to you. So let yourself find out what's on the other side. Let yourself find out that if you know where you're at right now is not lighting you up, give yourself a chance to find out what will.
I think the end of year can be a pressure cooker of making changes. People are like, oh, what are your New Year's resolutions? And we can come up with, I'm going to go to the gym 3 days a week. I'm going to eat less red meat. I'm going to blah, blah, blah. Things that we think we should do, or that we think will be fixes to make us happier, make us feel better. And I'm not putting any shame to those things. Those things are great. But I think real sustainable change may not be tied to a specific goal. If you are so disconnected from your life, or if you're so unhappy, you don't even know what you're doing, or you're just so complacent feeling in your life, I think the question to ask is to say, or the goal is to say, like, I'm going to ask myself the hard questions this year, and I'm not going to look for anyone else to give me the answers. I'm going to find the answers only within myself. No Google searches. No looking to therapists for absolute answers. No looking into my parents for absolute answers. No looking for certainty anywhere, and saying and committing to yourself that you're going to take the path less traveled this year, and you're going to sit with yourself, and you're going to ask the hard question. And this is unique to everyone, but you're not going to look for a quick fix. You're going to sit with yourself and not even think about external outputs of career or job or relationships or financial situations or vacations. And if you want to make change, and this is just my experience, is that you can just sit with yourself sit with your emotions and see what comes up. What are you wanting to make a change in your life? How do you want to feel differently each day? Do you want to feel more lit up? Okay, so what's one thing you can do to feel lit up? Can you start going to a community more? What is one thing you can do to start feeling more present? Can you join a meditation course? It's not so much getting fixated on what you want to achieve, but it's what state do I want to continue to feel in? Because the only thing, in my opinion, that's going to outweigh the discomfort of uncertainty is the feelings that come with remaining within a certain state, the rewards that comes with feeling you're actually presently experiencing this moment. That's going to be what keeps you moving forward, is the rewards that come from being able to experience this moment and not doing things to get a short fleeting high, but to keep moving forward in a sustained way to where you see your life become larger in each moment because you're so grounded in the present moment and you're not getting carried away with your thoughts. I think reframing these questions can be valuable because they're more substantial, they're more deep. And overall, you don't want to be working away for how you might feel in a year. You want to be working away at something that's going to change how you feel when you're working away in that moment. You don't need to lose the 15 pounds before you can feel happy. Feel happy right now because you are facing it, and be happy that you are making a change and find happiness in the discomfort, knowing that you're never going to be where you were, but you're going to be right here in this moment. And that can start now. You can start doing that now, and that's where the discomfort is.
Yeah, what an incredible reminder. And that is exactly what the mindset I took with me when I was at my job and I didn't want to be there, was saying, I know that happiness is not external. That was a big realization I had to understand, that I am constantly looking for things outside of me. I'm waiting for the weekend. I'm waiting for the vacation. I'm waiting for money. I'm waiting for something else. I have placed so much emphasis on that. I'm waiting to leave my job because I think I'll be happier. I'm waiting to move because I think I'll be happier. And I realized about a year ago, or maybe a little earlier, that I can be happy anywhere. It's all your mind. It's all your internal experience of what are the things that are getting in the way of you enjoying life. And a huge one for me was expectation. I expect my life to change right away. I expect things to be different. I feel mad at myself that I'm where I'm at now. I feel resentful. I feel angry. And we look at all these things, right? Like when we think about why can we not enjoy life? It's because of our thought patterns. It's because of things that have started when we were younger that we have absorbed and continue to go until this day of, I'll be happy when. So what Daisy said is so important when we're reflecting at the end of the year, or as you go on this journey. Like, I reflect weekly, I reflect daily. I'm like reflecting in every moment of, you cultivate that awareness between you and your thoughts. But to somebody who's just now maybe starting to make some changes and they're reflecting at the end of the year, it's so important to remember the difference between an external change and an internal change. And an internal change is the foundation that you will take with you through every external change and will stay with you. The external stuff will change, right? Maybe you want a new job now. Say you're 25, you want a new job. Well, at 30, maybe you want a different job. At 35, maybe all of a sudden you're married and you're struggling with your partner because you guys are having kids. At 40, maybe your parent passes away, right? Like, life doesn't stop when we get the things we want. And just because I'm pursuing my passion right now doesn't mean that I'm not going through extreme, hard, painful emotions. I'm not healing my entire life. I'm not looking at trauma. I'm not looking at all these things. And it's a recognition that you have to cultivate that inner world. You have to look within. And my goal for 2023 was, I'm going to be present in every single moment. I'm going to find inner peace in every moment as much as I can. And that meant that when I wasn't getting the things I wanted, I realized the problem wasn't I wasn't getting the things I wanted, but the problem was how much pressure and expectation I was placing on my happiness and fulfillment on that thing. And it's a balance, right? When you're setting goals, it's recognizing that the most important goal is the one that's within. It's learning how to not react. It's learning how to show up with love. It's learning how to interact with whoever you're interacting without projecting your stuff from childhood onto them. It's learning how to show up in the here, now, in this very moment. And for me, that is what I started to do, and that is what I'm still doing. Yes, everything around me is changing. My external world is changing, but that's all the toppings on the cake, right? My cake, my foundation, my core that I take with me until the day that I die is a state of presence, a state of love, and a state of recognizing I'm not my thoughts. So I think it's so important to whoever's listening to this, to all that pressure comes in of the change my life, change my life, change my life. It's like, slow down. We can recognize these hard things of these changes we want to make. We can work to want to change them, but ultimately, you're going to just find yourself back to yourself. So it's about looking within, looking at yourself and going, oh, okay, how do I want to show up? Not next year, but how do I want to show up tomorrow?
Our external worlds are simply just a reflection of our internal world. So there can be all of this pressure to quickly change our external worlds. And in my experience, that's not where we can put the emphasis of the expectation. It has to be on simply focusing on the internal world, because the more we get comfortable with the internal world, the more we expand it, the more we create it, the more we're going to be able to see our external world change without us realizing we're doing it, because it's all of the focus on the internal world. And that's exciting because anyone can start to change their internal world. Anyone can make friends with the fears that subconsciously control them in the relationship they don't like, in the job they don't like, in the living situation they don't like. You can make peace with these things. While disliking them, you can accept them. And when we accept things that we hate about our lives, it clears up so much space for us to start thinking about changes instead of fixating on how much you hate it. You can start to say, wow, like there's an opportunity to make a change there. I'm asking the hard question of, am I happy right now? And I'm going to say, nope. And I'm going to make that change because it's not comfortable, but I choose my growth and my happiness over my comfort. And I think it's a very exciting time in your life when you start to pay attention to your internal world, because that's where the manifestations of our external world come from. Those are the seeds that we've planted, and the flowers bloom around us. And we're not trying to control saying flowers bloom without planting the seeds, because we know that's not going to work. And I think that is a mentality that the pressure of putting goals out there at the end of the year kind of says, like, we're going to beg these flowers to grow around us without planting the seeds in our deep subconscious mind, without acting out in our day-to-day life what we want the manifestations to be. It's all about, what are we doing in this exact moment? What seeds are we planting in this exact moment? Because that's going to be what manifests around us, is what we're doing in this moment. And that's really more so, are you fixated on something in your mind? Are you fixated on something you don't like? It all goes back to relinquishing yourself from your thoughts and creating separation between you and your thoughts, because there's peace in that. And when there's peace, there's potential and there's opportunity and there's the space to make changes.
Exactly. Like, it's not like you're going to look at your garden where you just planted a seed and get so mad that your tree or your apple tree didn't grow yet. You're going to accept that you're just planting the seed. And then when your apple tree does start to grow and you start planting some more trees, you're not going to expect those trees to grow right away. It's acceptance is such a huge component.
And finding the joy in just planting the tree.
Finding the joy in planting the seed. Find the joy in planting the seeds of your life.
Enjoying the dance.
Because exactly what you said, that it's going to take us back to each very moment. Why does that matter? Because your life is composed of present moments, continuous present moments. Your life is made up of today. As you're listening to this podcast, this is your life. Your life is now. It's not tomorrow. It wasn't yesterday. It's now.
And there's nowhere to get other than right now. And if you love where you're at, well, that's fucking exciting. And if you don't love that, then you have work to do. But that's also exciting.
That's also exciting.
Because you can find joy in doing the work that's going to make the change.
And that's why it became a fun opportunity for me when I hated my job to say, let me use this as an opportunity to learn. As soon as I recognized it wasn't a job, I said, oh, I'm mad today. Let me really understand. It's not the boss, it's me. So what is this? And that's where it unravels. That's where you start to get to know yourself. Where you go, oh, in a few months you go, oh, right. There's some unhealed trauma over there. There's some unhealed emotions over there. Or, it just starts to play all the things that were once controlling you. So it gets fun. It's fucking painful, but it's fun because your life changes and opportunities open up. But it's just you. It's always just you doing the work.
And what upsets you is never what you think it might be. There's always something beneath that. There's always something that allows you to have peace. And that's you. You allow yourself to have peace at the end of the day. You don't have to have that newer car. You don't have to have that bigger house. You don't have to have anything. I saw a commercial for T-Mobile or one of those phone companies. And it was this mom who was envious of another family who had the newest iPhone. And it was an ad to get an upgrade for a family of 5 for the newest iPhone. And I rolled my eyes because I was just like, that is what's beneath that, right? What is beneath that? But that's just a silly example of the fact that it's never anything that we have to get. There's always some sort of peace we can have in this moment. And if we just sit with what we don't like about this moment, there's peace on the other side of that. So I think it's really exciting no matter where you're at, because it's real change, it's real work. And this episode has helped me tremendously. I thought I was in a great place when we started this episode, but I think I'm just I'm just more grounded in the present from this conversation. It is such a great reminder when you think there is somewhere else to be that could make you happier, because we fall into that all the time. I certainly have been. But the reality is there is nowhere to get other than just in this moment. And all opportunity is in this moment. And that's so freeing.
An opportunity is not found in comparing yourself to other people. It's not found in looking at other people's past or, oh, Daisy and Sophie left their job, but they must be so happy. No, it's not about where you're at in life. If someone's on vacation in Florida and they're posting on Instagram, you don't know what the hell they're experiencing. Let go of comparing yourself to where other people are at, other people are changing their lives, and recognize you have your own path. And that's so exciting because no one else is you. No one else can be you. Besides the fact we are all the same and everyone is just you through the perception of your mind, but in the sense of your own uniqueness, nobody can replace that. So don't judge your path because other people are quote unquote farther along, because just because Daisy and I left our jobs doesn't mean that we're not constantly encountering roadblocks, right? That's just life. So get comfortable with who you are. Get comfortable with the fact that there's always going to be somebody who you can compare yourself to, and recognize that we are all going through shit. Social media is not accurate depiction. What you see on TV and media and advertisement, all that shit, it wants you to think that people are happier than you, and the reality of it is we're all going through it. So just a reminder to not compare yourself to your journey to others, and remind yourself that we're all going through our own journeys. And that's what makes this exciting, because it's your life and it's meant to be lived by you. I think that's it. I think that was a great combo.
That was a great
Ready
combo.
to eat some lunch.
So thanks everyone for joining. Thanks for being here. And we wish you happy holidays around this season. And we're not going anywhere. We are recording all of our episodes so that even though it may be that you're on vacation, you'll still be getting our episodes on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so you can still look out for those.
Yep. Thank you so much for listening. All hope everyone's having a nice holiday week, and reminding that boundaries are okay. There's no right way to spend the holidays. And yeah, thank you all for listening. Hope you have a nice week, and we'll talk to you on Thursday.